What is up, guys? Del Boy here. I just wanted to make a quick preview for a fight that goes down this weekend on Friday, and it's a fight that's not really been talked about too much, and that's unfortunate really, because it's a good fight. I think it's intriguing. You know, both guys have contrasting styles that could potentially gel quite well for a good boxing match. And the fight I'm referring to is Gilberto Ramirez versus Jesse Hart, and this fight is for Gilberto Ramirez's WBO super middleweight title. He won that title back in April 2016 against Arthur Abraham, and this is his second defence of his title and arguably the toughest test of both guys' careers so far. I appreciate that obviously Abraham was billed as a step up for Gilberto Ramirez, but I think stylistically Abraham was tailor-made for him, and obviously Abraham was coming towards the end of his career. I think Hart will cause him more problems than Abraham. I really do. And I think vice versa. Jesse Hart has been a prospect for quite some time now, and I've been seeing this guy's name for like 4 years, and he's not really stepped up. So he's in for an even bigger step up when he faces Gilberto Ramirez, because at the very least, Ramirez has been in there with guys like Abraham, you know, and even Maxim Vlasov, who's far better than anybody on Jesse Hart's resume. So obviously the step up is bigger for Jesse Hart. I'm not going to do a prediction video, just a quick preview, because ultimately I don't know enough about Jesse Hart to really sort of make a educated prediction, so I'm just going to preview it really. If we look at both guys, we'll start with the champion Gilberto Ramirez, and he comes into the fight with a record of 35 wins, 0 defeats, 0 draws, 24 of those 35 coming by way of stoppage. And Jesse Hart comes into the fight with a record of 22 wins, 0 defeats, 0 draws, 18 of those 22 wins coming by way of stoppage. If we look at the physical attributes, Gilberto Ramirez is listed as 6'2.5" with a 75-inch reach, and Jesse Hart is listed as 6'3" with a 77.5-inch reach. So Hart is the taller man, he's the longer man. He's got a 2.5-inch reach advantage. And that's an interesting factor, because Gilberto Ramirez is always a bigger guy in his fights, but not this time. So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles that, how he handles not having his usual advantages. That's going to be interesting. Both of these guys are big super middleweights in terms of height and reach. So it's going to be interesting to see how Gilberto Ramirez kind of offsets that, because ultimately that's his style. To me, Gilberto Ramirez is best when he keeps it long, when he boxes long, as we saw against Arthur Abraham. That's his best style for me. So maybe if that's not working against Jesse Hart, it's going to be really interesting to see how he mixes it up, because Ramirez to me is a sort of a consistent fighter where he fights his style each and every fight, but he doesn't really strike me as that type of guy who has that X factor. He's a tall southpaw who likes to keep it long, and if the southpaw advantage is not working and the long range boxing isn't working, can he sort of step up in the levels and change it up? I'm not sure, because when Vlasov got inside on him, I thought Vlasov gave Gilberto Ramirez trouble, to be quite honest. And yeah, I think there could be potential troubles there for Ramirez in that front, you know. If he can't outbox Jesse Hart from long, where does he go? You know, is he going to be more aggressive? What does he do? Because he's not an aggressive fighter in my opinion. Is Gilberto Ramirez? He's a boxer, so that'll be interesting. And the reason I bring that up is, to me, from what I see, Jesse Hart is more of a boxer as well. He likes to use his jab. You know, he's an orthodox fighter, unlike Gilberto Ramirez, who's a southpaw. Jesse Hart's an orthodox fighter who likes to fire a quick jab. He likes to vary that jab as well from body to head to keep his man guessing, to keep his man off balance, and he does that very well. He's got a very quick jab. But I think his other punches are a little bit sloppy. I think his left hook is way too wide and potentially could be countered by Gilberto Ramirez's straight punches. They're going to be there for him. If Jesse Hart throws his wide shots like he's done in his highlights and fights I've seen, then the straight punches of Gilberto Ramirez can definitely land and have their effect. I really do think that. There's certain shots there against Jesse Hart, and he's shown a couple of times in his career that he is vulnerable. I mean, he got dropped hard against the journeyman Dashon Johnson. So maybe there's a question about durability and toughness. You know, if Gilberto can sort of find the target regularly, it's going to be interesting to see how Jesse Hart reacts, because Jesse Hart has never been tested like that. You know, he's never had to sort of prove himself at world level. He's not fought a guy like Abraham, who Ramirez has fought, or even a guy like Maxim Vlasov, who Ramirez has fought. We don't know how good he is. So Hart's got a lot to show us, but I do think there's aspects of his game that can definitely trouble Gilberto Ramirez. His quickness, his quick jab, you know, that's going to give him trouble. He has got a quick right hand as well, behind the jab. That could be potentially effective because Ramirez does stand straight up sometimes, although he is good on his feet. I think this is going to be a good boxing match, I have to say, but in the exchanges, I think that's where Jesse Hart is going to come undone. If these two guys exchange, I think Ramirez's technique, I think he's got better technique. I think it will come through. So to me, the key for Jesse Hart is to keep himself moving, to try and keep Ramirez off balance, to try and sort of peck away with a jab, look for that right hand when it's available, only let your hands go when necessary. Because I think potentially Jesse Hart has the style to cause Gilberto Ramirez real trouble. It's just whether he has the seasoning to get it done. Does he have the relevant experience to get it done? I'm not so sure, because Jesse Hart looks like one of those type of fighters who switches off. He does come in open at times, like I said, when he throws his hooks, particularly that left hook, it's extremely wide, you know. He does let his hand, when he lets his hands go, he is quite open. He doesn't keep his chin tucked. You know, there are going to be openings there if he fights aggressively, and that could be his downfall. Ramirez is a good counter puncher. He's nice and precise, and he does have overall better technique, but he doesn't have the athletic ability that Jesse Hart does. Combine that with Jesse Hart's longer reach and he's taller, that could give Gilberto real trouble. If Ramirez, to me, basically, if Ramirez was a guy who I've seen adapt and's got a few different styles, then I'd pick him to win this fight. But the fact is, I've not seen that. To me, Ramirez looks very good on the outside, but if he doesn't have success doing that, I'm not sure where he goes. You know, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's got a next level or I'm not sure if he can adapt kind of thing. Because I think potentially Jesse Hart's style could outride his. I really do think that. Potentially this could be a close fight. I could see, you know, Ramirez getting outboxed early, but then wearing Jesse Hart down. I can see that scenario. I think it's a really good fight, and it's a shame that nobody's really talking about it. Also, one more thing. Jesse Hart has the higher knockout ratio, but I don't think that tells the full story. Jesse Hart has a knockout ratio of 82%, but Gilberto Ramirez has a knockout ratio of 69%. So some people will come to the conclusion that Jesse Hart is a bigger puncher. I don't actually agree with that. I'm not saying Ramirez hits harder necessarily, but I just don't think Hart is a puncher. I think his resume has been so padded that it gives a false reading kind of thing. His level of competition has been awful, and that's one thing I said earlier. I've known about Jesse Hart since like 2013 as a prospect, and it's taken him this long to step up. Why is that? He got dropped against Dashon Johnson. Is there chin issues? Is there durability issues? You know, were they just waiting for the right fight to come along and then take their chance? You know, are they worried about taking sort of a semi-risky fight that doesn't really pay well? Interesting, man. You know, do they know something about Jesse Hart, but we don't? It's a weird one because he's been going around for a long time now, but he's not had that step-up fight. And sometimes there's a reason for that, you know? And Ramirez has fought tougher guys on the way up, like I said. You know, if you take out the Abraham fight, he fought some tough guys. Guys like, as I said, Maxim Vlasov, Derek Edwards, you know, guys of that nature. So, yeah, I mean, Ramirez has definitely fought a better competition. And he has looked good at times as well. He's got a lot to work with. It's an interesting fight. I'm not going to make a prediction for it. I'm just going to do this preview and that's it. You know, pretty much every single fight that gets made of any note, I'll make a prediction for because I do feel strongly one way or the other. Or I've got a feeling kind of thing. But with this fight, I just don't have any clue who's going to win. I can't really work out in my mind who's going to win. And I'm going to leave it at that, really. Just give it a little preview, just to let guys know it's out there. It's going to happen on Friday. Great fight. I'm looking forward to it. Who do you guys think is going to win? Peace.